Hey everyone, my name is Tori and today's video is going to be my spring makeup basket. So basically all of the makeup that I'm going to be focusing on in the months of April and probably into May. I'm not wearing makeup as much and as often because we are still in quarantine and times are still crazy. We're still working from home, so everything's just very different. Yeah, just a very different life right now. Currently, I'm wearing makeup about twice a week. I am teaching a hip hop class on live stream, so I go into the studio by myself and film myself teaching for an hour and live stream it to our kids. So that's what I've been doing. So whenever I do that, I do put on makeup. It does help me feel a little bit more put together, and I don't know. I think there's just something about that process and being, having your hair brushed and like putting on makeup and putting on like real clothes is definitely can sometimes help you feel like you're a little more normal. So anyway, so since I'm not putting on makeup that often, I didn't want to overwhelm myself with too many products to choose from. I wanted something that was like a smaller, more curated set of products to go with. So we'll start with primer. So I'm going to go ahead and focus on my Fenty Beauty, I don't even know what this is called, the True Matte Pro Filter Mattifying Primer. So I've already used this a few times and you can kind of see here, I shook it a little bit, but the line is about right here of how much I've used it. This primer is one of the newer ones. It came out at the same time as the Hydrating foundation, I believe. I didn't try the original primer, but I wanted something that was more, I don't know, I wanted a primer that would be a little more pore filling, mattifying, but also hydrating, because I am more on the combo side of things, like combo oily than just like straight up oily and straight up dry. I definitely have elements of both in my skin, so I feel like this primer, the way it was described, really fit the needs that I was looking for my skin. So far, the times I've used it, I like it, so we'll see how it goes. I want to try it out with a few different foundations to see if it's something that I would want to continue to reuse and repurchase. For foundation, I'm using the Fenty Beauty Pro Filter Hydrating Longwear Foundation, and mine is in the shade 120, and this is the same shade that I was in for the Pro Filter, Matte Pro Filter? I don't know what it's called, the original foundation. And I actually loved that foundation when I first got it, and I used it all the time. I almost used it completely up, and I have no idea what happened, but towards like the bottom of the bottle, towards the end of its lifespan on my vanity, I just decided I didn't really like it anymore. I felt like it was kind of slipping and sliding around my face, and also at the same time somehow really drying. It was just, it got weird. I think my skin just kind of changed, and my skin has been changing over the past couple of years. Not the biggest fan of that foundation anymore, though I really was at one time. So I really wanted to try this hydrating one, and I thought mixing it with the mattifying primer with the hydrating foundation would be a good combination for my combination skin. And by the way, all of this makeup for the most part is what I'm wearing on my face today, in case you're curious or interested. For concealer, I am trying a new concealer. This is from Colourpop, and this is their Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Creamy Concealer. And this concealer is actually something that came out with their, I think they had a whole Pretty Fresh line where they had like a tinted moisturizer and a primer, a setting spray, something like that. It was like a whole set. I actually bought the tinted moisturizer, and that's something that I want to try out as well. I'm really into more lightweight, lighter coverage foundations lately, and I really think it's because I haven't been wearing makeup for what feels like forever, which it really hasn't been that long. It's maybe a month or so. I just don't wear makeup that often anymore, and whenever I put something on my skin now, it feels like 10 times heavier than it normally does. I don't know if anyone's had that similar experience, but now I feel like anytime I wear foundation, I don't want to wear like a ton of it, and I feel like all my foundations are really thick, and I find myself wanting to use less product. So I thought it'd be a good time to try that tinted moisturizer. For this concealer, I'm in the shade Fair 10N, and it's not, I don't think it's the best shade match for me. I feel like I need something that's like a touch, I don't know, maybe a little bit warmer, maybe a little bit darker. I'm not really sure. I had a really hard time shade matching myself online for this because, as you know, Ulta's stores are closed, so I couldn't go in and swatch and kind of see, what my shade match would be. And I also don't know if they have all of the shades in Ulta. So once it's on my face and it's blended out with the rest of my makeup, it's fine, but it is a closer shade match for me than the Tarte Shape Tape that I have in the shade Fair Light Neutral, I think. So far, I really do like this concealer. I've only used it a few times, so I want to continue to use it to see, how I feel about it. For setting powder, I'm still using my Laura Mercier Loose Translucent Setting Powder. I don't know if that'll ever change. So for all over setting powder, I'm using the Maybelline Superstay Full Coverage 16-Hour Powder Foundation. Mine's in the shade 102 Fair Porcelain. And I feel like this powder is pretty similar to the L'Oreal Pro Matte Powder that I've been using, or that I've used for years. I go back and forth between this one and the L'Oreal. I do think that this shade matches a little bit better for me because it is a little bit lighter. The L'Oreal shades don't go light enough. I feel like I need like one shade lighter for my skin tone. So I feel like this is a perfect shade match, and the formulas remind me of each other. So I feel like they're interchangeable. I love this powder. For bronzer, I am using the Colourpop Coconut Beach Bronzer. And I got this when I ordered the Going Coconuts palette, like when they came out with that whole collection. I think this bronzer is nice. You can kind of see the pan rings there already. I've used this quite a bit. I really like this bronzer. I like it better than the Private Party bronzer that I tried previously from Colourpop. I felt like that one was just a little bit too warm. I prefer my bronzers to be more on the neutral side. I do think that this bronzer does pull a little warm though. It's not as warm as Private Party, but still kind of warm. Like it's more warm than neutral. But I do think it's a really nice bronzer. It's more of a matte-ish satin finish. So this is a bronzer that I'm going to try to use and use up. So I can move on to, I have a couple of other bronzers that I want to use up. For kind of an all-over glowy powder, a highlighter, sort of, I guess. This is the, what is this even called? I think they're called the Moodlight powders, but it says Luminous powder on here. These are the loose highlighters, or like the loose luminous powders from Jaclyn Cosmetics. And this is Jaclyn Hill's cosmetic brand. I tried a couple of the other products from this collection. It was the whole like highlighter holiday release collection that she did this past holiday season. This was my favorite product by far from all of the ones that I tried from her line. So if you were interested in getting anything from that line, this is definitely something I would recommend. It's a very finely milled, very soft, like natural looking glow. It's gorgeous. This is something that for me is enough highlight. I don't necessarily even need to go in with a highlighter on top of this. I will sometimes. This is something you can use like as an all-over face, not a setting powder, but like an all-over kind of glow, and then you can highlight just in very specific areas. That's how I like to wear it, but I really like this powder. It's just so pretty, it's so natural, and it just gives so much light to your skin. It's really, really nice. This one is in the shade Do Me. I also have it in the shade Brighten Up. I feel like Brighten Up is more of like my skin tone, whereas Do Me is like a brighter actual highlight of my skin tone. As for actual highlight, I went ahead and put 2 in here just so I could have some options. So I put my Makeup Forever Pro Light Fusion 01 powder in here. And this is a pink highlighter. It's kind of frosty. It's very light pink. When you put it on, it doesn't necessarily pull like pink. Like it doesn't, if you catch the light, you don't think, oh, that's a pink highlight. It's more of like a frosty, cool tone highlight. Sometimes I wish it pulled a little more pink like it looks in the pan, but I do think it's a really nice highlight. It does blend into the skin very nicely. The formula is really pretty. It's very smooth. It's a nice highlight. I don't think it's necessarily something that like if I could go back in time, I would go back and like buy again, but it's not something that I dislike to where I would declutter it. I'm like, like it's okay. It's nice. I like it. It's cool. So I want to continue to use this one. I also put in here my favorite highlight, like one of my favorite highlights. This is from Fenty Beauty, and this is the Killawatt Freestyle Highlighting Duo in the shades Lightning Dust and Fire Crystal. And you've seen this on my channel before. So I wanted to hit pan in the Fire Crystal side, and I finally did. So I'm really excited about that. I really want to expand this pan and use it a lot and get it to the point where it looks like the opposite side. I've already purchased a new one because I've missed this shade so much. This shade is just so pretty. The Lightning Dust side, it reminds me a little bit of these Luminous powders, but it's got a little bit more oomph to it. It's just so pretty. It looks so natural, so glowy. Ugh, it's just, the formula is so good. For blushes, I went with this kind of palette situation. These are all of my Colourpop blushes that I have. I have them all like in singles, and they're all inside of this palette. And this palette actually is a Kathleen Lights collab. I don't know if it's still available, but wow, look how pretty that is. I just love the design of this. I love the colors. Like, it's just so cute. On this side here are the Kathleen Lights collaboration. And then the one up here is called, I think it's called To The 10. It's cool because I feel like I'm giving myself a lot of options. Specifically, my favorite blush in here is this shade I Need Space. This is more of like a neutrally mauvey pinky toned, just the perfect everyday blush. It has a little bit of a sheen to it. It's just so pretty. It's what I'm wearing on my cheeks today. I like to mix that blush with Lunar Has It, which is this kind of more peachy neutral blush that's next to it. It's a matte blush. So those two pair really nicely together. And then these two like really intense blushes down here, these are really, really pretty when you're doing like more of a tan, like glowy type look, or just, I don't know, if you want to add more like life, like a lot of like a pop to your face, like these are really great colors for that. This To The 10 shade is not like the most amazing thing ever. It's just like a very basic blush for me. But yeah, I love the combinations that I can get with these colors. So these are the blushes that I will be focusing on for this season. Now the reason that I went with like a pinky tone highlighter, but also a normal tone highlighter, and then also blushes that had like peaches neutrals, then also like more of the mauves, is because of the two palettes that I selected for my eyeshadow. So the first one is by Huda Beauty. This is the new Nude palette. And I obsessed over this for so long before actually purchasing it, just because it was so expensive. And I actually bought this with the intention of possibly using it for my wedding. Every look that I created ended up just pulling so much more like pink purple than I anticipated, which like I don't know what I was thinking, because obviously when you look at this palette, like it's made up of pure like pinks and purples, which I love, but like that's not the vibe I wanted on my wedding day. Was not like pink, purple, you know. I wanted something that was more like of a neutral, like understated purple, but like neutral tone browns. Like that was more of the vibe that I ended up going with, and I was really happy with that. But yeah, that's why I actually bought this palette, and I ended up, of course, not using it for that, but I ended up keeping it because I liked it so much. So let's see, what did I use today? I used this shade Secret all over, and then I went in with the shade Raw right here, like in the crease and outer V, and then I used the shade Love Bite right here in the outer corner, and then all over the lid, or not all over the lid, like halfway out on the lid, I use this shade Daydream. This Daydream shade is like one of my favorite shades ever to exist. Like it's so pretty. These colors are so unique. Like these little ones that have like the pearlized looking like little iridescent dots in them. They're so pretty. So they're like super fine like shimmers, almost borderline fine glitters. It's just a really, really unique formula. So this palette was like 60 something dollars, and I definitely have not used it enough. So I want to just use it more, and I love all the colors in it. The next palette is another palette that I love, but I feel like I don't use that often. This is the Bare Necessities palette from Colourpop, and it just has all of your basic neutrals. Like it's just literally, you might not need any other palette, you know, like there's so many different looks that you can do with this palette. I do think sometimes I open this and I feel like a little overwhelmed by all the options, and I end up just going back to the things that I know really well. Like I feel like this is the perfect time to use palettes like this that I haven't used that often, because it's going to make me, you know, I have the time to like sit down and like think about a look. That sounds kind of dumb, but you know what I'm saying? Like where I'm like, what am I going to do today? Like there's so many options in it that sometimes I'm like, I end up doing the same thing over and over again. So I really want to use this time where I have a little more time getting ready for things, to, you know, explore some of these other colors that maybe I wouldn't normally reach for. The rest of this is kind of boring because you see it all the time. For brows, I'm doing my e.l.f. brow pencil in the shade Taupe, as always, with my NYX Control Freak brow gel. I'm using my Physicians Formula Eye Booster 2-in-1 Lash Boosting Eyeliner and Serum in the shade Ultra Blacks. This is what I line my upper, like my lash line with on top. I can't get ready without this. I love this. I feel like it's the finishing touch for everything. I'm using my MAC Eye Kohl in the shade Teddy. I'm hopefully going to be able to use this up, so there's not a lot left. It's just like a really deep chocolate brown. Then I'm using my two favorite mascaras, my L'Oreal Lash Paradise and my Maybelline Lash Sensational. Oh, I forgot to say this. I'm still using my Park Ave Princess like chisel palette from Tarte. I think it's called the Chisel palette. It's just a powder contour palette. I think when I've used up these two powders here, I'm probably going to go ahead and just give it to my sister. For lips, and this is leaking really bad, and I don't understand why. This is by Dose of Colors, and this is in the shade Messy Bun, and you can see how it's like bubbling out the side. I would love to know if anyone else has had a similar experience to me with this. Nothing happened. Like, I didn't do anything differently. All I did was just, you know, use it. I untwisted the cap, and then I twisted it back on, and then next thing I know, it's leaking. So I've had this for a while, and this is the first time that it has started leaking, so I really don't know what's going on with that. But I love this color. It's what I'm wearing on my lips today. It is a more pigmented gloss. It's kind of like a mauve-y, Your Lips But Better type shade for me. I love this color. I love it enough to where, like, I would almost, if I can't figure out why it's leaking or fix it, I might buy another one at some point. Like, that's how much I love this lip gloss. So I was really disappointed when it started leaking, because now I can't put it in my purse. I can only like put it on in the morning, and then it has to like sit up here on my vanity, and I can't take it with me. So there's that. I'll also be using the Dior Addict Lip Maximizer in the shade 001. This is really just like a clear gloss. It has a little bit of a lip plumping effect, so it is just like a little bit tingly, but it's basically just a clear gloss. This is just something that I feel like I really treated myself to, and I didn't use enough. So if I sit this straight up, it's gone down a little bit. I have used it, but I feel like it lives in this drawer here instead of like living in my purse. So I want to make a more conscious effort of trying to actually use it, because it was a more expensive lip product, and I do really like it. Well, that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.